Hi, I'm Hank Zona, and I have a passion for wine. I grew up in a family with immigrant grandparents, and wine was a big part of everyday life. As I got older and my interest in wine grew, I wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And as my knowledge increased, I kept coming back to my roots with wine. Wine is something we share with family and friends. It's for fun, it's for pleasure. Now I want to share my knowledge and passion for wine with you. Please join me as we explore wine from all different angles on The Grapes Unwrapped. Hi, I'm Hank Zona of Swirl Wine Events. Welcome back to The Grapes Unwrapped. I'm coming to you live from my community, specifically my own backyard. And the reason I'm doing that is because as we started to put this show together, we realized there is a community theme to it. First, we're going to take you to Kari's Cafe in Maplewood, where we got a bunch of people from the community together who come to this cafe on a Friday night and drink wine and talk about why they're drinking that wine. We also went to a neighboring community to visit the Garden State Urban Farms. That's really serving a real big important need in the community as well. That's going to be our backdrop for a piece on wines that go great with spring and summer, and specifically with spring and summer vegetables and greens. We'll be back to you in a moment. Kari's has a Friday night cafe thing going on here with some music, and people come into Kari's and they bring in wine. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to be here with a camera, talk to people about what wine they're drinking and why they drink it, and maybe even offer some alternatives. So I brought along some wine myself. Diogenes, who's known as the father of cynicism, once said, "The wine I like most is wine that belongs to others." Okay. With that in mind, Howard, my first guest. Howard, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Great to be here.
Thanks to be here, I appreciate it. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Tuscan wine, a super Tuscan.
Great. Can I have some, please? Because that's why I'm here.
Vita Lucente, 2007.
Okay.
And it's a delicious Sangiovese-based wine from Tuscany.
Okay. Sangiovese being based the noble grape of Tuscany.
Yes, it's the principal grape of Tuscan wine.
And you are a wine drinker. You and I have talked wine a lot over the years. You tell us what a Super Tuscan is.
A Super Tuscan is a red wine from Italy that does not adhere to the strict regulations that the Italian government has placed on the way wines are made.
Right.
So it's often a formula that is not standard. So it's often an Italian grape with a French grape, like Sangiovese with Cabernet Franc.
Right.
It doesn't qualify as any type of Italian wine, but it's delicious.
And they sold these wines as table wine, not even as the denominated wine that they have in Tuscany. And the funny thing about that is they end up being much better, much more expensive, and high test wines, and wines that you can lay down and age for a long time.
Right, and the nice thing about this Lucente is that it tastes like a $60 Super Tuscan, but it's only $20.
Which is great. And this is now Sangiovese, and you know it's blended in?
I don't. It doesn't say on the bottle.
That's a nice wine. It's definitely an Italian wine. Italian wines to me have a much different pronounced taste than a lot of other wines do. I find almost a roasted fruit as opposed to like a baked fruit or a jammy kind of taste that you get from a comparable wine, say from California.
I get a little bit of prune.
Yeah, which is we're getting that roasted fruit in there. Now what I'd like for you to try, okay, a wine that I brought along. This is a Tempranillo. Tempranillo is to Spain really what the Sangiovese is to Italy. It is one of the noble grapes of Spain. One of the nice things about when you get wines from Spain and Portugal is they hold on to these wines a lot, and they hold on to them aged. So even though I bought this wine recently, it's a 10-year-old wine. Most wines from most regions, if you want a 10-year-old wine, you're buying it and holding on to it yourself for that long. So just like the Sangiovese is really a food wine in Italy, Tempranillo is also pretty much a food wine in Spain.
And like the Sangiovese, it was traditionally a blending wine.
Right.
They didn't start selling them as varietals until fairly recently.
Right. And this wine's a lot drier.
It is.
Not got as much fruit, but for a 10-year-old wine, it still has a really fresh color, and it's still very tannic, very, very tannic.
I like it.
I do too. So thanks for letting me have some of your wine.
Thank you for letting me have some of your wine.
We'll be back with some more guests in a moment. Hi, we're at Garden State Urban Farms in Orange, New Jersey. I want to do a segment on wines that go really well with spring and summer, and especially spring and summer vegetables and greens. I could do this in my vegetable garden. I could have gone out to a farm somewhere, but I thought this was a pretty cool space to come to. Garden State Urban Farms here in Orange and also in Newark is producing year-round. It's spring and summer year-round here, but they're producing greens and vegetables, and not only for farmers markets, but also for the restaurant market as well. So I thought this would be kind of a fun place to come and shoot this segment in. First wine I want to talk about that goes really well with spring and with summer and with vegetables and with greens, it's Prosecco. Prosecco right now is the fastest growing sparkling wine out there. You're finding it everywhere. It comes in two styles, Frizzante and Spumante. You'll see on the top of the Spumante you've got your traditional champagne wire basket because it's more highly pressurized. On the Frizzante, a lot of these you can open with a corkscrew, and this one here is just a screw top, and you know how much I like those. I don't bother with flutes for these. This is just a nice wine to drink. Casual wine for spring and summer. Again, great with vegetables, great with greens, great all by itself. Very light fizz, you'll notice in that. Really pretty color. You can see some small bubbles in there, but really not highly effervescent. That's the Frizzante style. Spumante style, again, is much more higher fizz, much more higher pressure, and really tasty. This really tastes of summer to me, and again, this is the fastest growing sparkling wine now in the market. You're finding it everywhere. Also comes in a rosé, comes in sweeter styles, comes in a dry style, and anywhere in between. But this is probably what you're going to find an awful lot this year as a lot of people's big summer sipper. Cheers. Hey, we're back at Kari's. Rick, how are you?
I'm good, Hank. How are you?
Great. What'd you bring?
Well, I brought a Montepulciano d'Abruzzo that I discovered the '99 vintage, and it was delicious for not a lot of money. I tasted a few after that and was underimpressed, and I'd heard good things about this vintage, which is the 2007, and liked it a lot. And for around a $10 bottle of wine,
that's great.
I thought it was a great everyday drinker. So,
I trust your palate, and so tell me about this. I mean, this is an interesting there's a piece of wood. This piece of wood on this bottle.
Well, there's a great story about that. Just down the street from the winery in Italy, there is a school for the deaf. They send the wines down and have the women at this school put these are actually pieces of vine. They have them put the piece of vine on the bottle, and they pay them to do it. So it's kind of their way of giving back to the community.
Yeah. Interesting. Why do you like this?
I find it very drinkable. It has enough body to be a food wine, but it's not so big that it's overwhelming as just a wine to sit down and have a glass when you get home. It's really not missing anything. It's not a huge body. It's not going to go with everything, but
there's a good amount of tannins in there. And here's the thing about Italian wines. Italian reds, really are not always easy to drink by themselves because they are more acidic, they are higher in tannins. I mean, the Italians make great wines, but they make them to have with food. That's their culture. So it's not always easy to find a red that you can have by itself and also with food. It's got a lot of fruit in there, but it's not overwhelming. So I can see this going both ways. You can sit around and sip this, or you can have it with a meal and be pretty happy with it too. So,
absolutely. There's a great pizza wine, which is not easy.
I like that. I want you to try something.
Sure.
Someone brought this earlier tonight, and this is a Super Tuscan. At $20 or a little bit under $20, this is what you'd consider a really good value. Super Tuscan, because you're not paying $75 for it. And also, the other difference in that as well is that it's a Super Tuscan blend that you can drink today, and you don't have to hold on to for a number of years, or you can drink by itself.
Now, what's the blend on this?
This is, I looked at the bottle before. He really didn't know when he brought it in. Obviously, it's heavily Sangiovese, and you can tell that. He believes it was Syrah and Cabernet blend in there too.
Yeah, I taste some Cabernet in there.
Yeah, it almost gives it even more heft to it.
Yeah.
But again, a nice wine. A wine that I would most likely want to have with food, as opposed to this wine here, where you can kind of sit back at the cafe and drink it. Even on a night like tonight, where it's still a little cool outside, not something I might have in the dead of summer, but it's a good 3-season wine.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, good. Cheers.
Cheers.
We're back at Garden State Urban Farms in Orange. This is really a cool place. I mean, first of all, well, it's not literally cool, but it is a cool space. Here, it's late spring, early summer, every day of the year. And in this space here, there's produce growing the equivalent of 2 or 3 acres of farmland. And it's all done hydroponically on the outside. A lot of the produce is growing in boxes. It's pretty cool, and everything is organic as well. The next wine I want to talk about that goes great with spring and summer, and goes great with spring and summer vegetables and greens, is rosé. Rosé is not a mixture of white wine and red wine. Rosé gets that color from the skin contact. If you were to eat a red grape at home, a table grape, if you bite it in half and you look on the inside, the juice is clear. The color inside is greenish white. What really gives a wine its color is not the juice from the grape, but the color comes from the skin itself. So a white wine means that there's no skin contact. A red wine means that during the fermentation process there's a longer skin contact. And with a rosé you've got really just partial skin contact. And here on the table I've got a couple of rosés. One from Italy and one from Argentina. Rosés have gained in popularity tremendously over the years. You'll see them a lot more featured now in wine stores of all types, and prices ranging from mid-single digits on up to about $40. I think though if you stick to mid-teens on down, you can find a great assortment of rosés. This is my favorite. This is our house wine rosé, if you will. It is a Malbec rosé from Argentina. Susana Balboa is the first lady of Argentine wine. This is her Crios label. Robert Parker says there is no greater valued wine label right now than her second label, which is Crios. She makes about half a dozen different wines under the Crios name, and this is the Malbec rosé, which is every year very consistently good quality and also very consistently good value. Isn't that a pretty color? Look at that. In fact, I want to just grab something here. One of the things they're growing here are a bunch of radishes, and that's a pretty good color match, I think. Even though I probably try about 30 or 40 different rosés a year, this is the one I keep coming back to. Rosés are great. This is not white Zinfandel. This isn't sweet and sugary and syrupy, but a good rosé made in a provincial method, in a southern Rhone method, is really dry. It's crisp. It's herbaceous. It's just got a lot of great floral scent and nice fruit to it, and really goes great with a variety of summer foods and spring foods. Again, especially with the vegetables, especially with the greens. Love this wine. Love rosés. Love this wine. I hope you get to love them too. Cheers. I've got my friend Dave Wagner here, and David came along tonight and he brought a bottle of wine.
I did.
He's drinking some of that bottle of wine.
But
like Diogenes, I would like to try some of your wine. Please tell me what you've got.
Okay.
Pour some for me, please.
I will. I'll pour you some.
All right.
And I'll tell you what it is. It is called Luigi Borca. It's an Argentinian Pinot Noir. I don't like to spend more than $15 a bottle.
That's a good price point.
This was about $15.
It's a good price point.
And I love Pinot Noir because I love the smoothness of it.
Like you.
Yeah, like just like that. And this was an exceptional wine, as far as I was concerned. I don't know much about wine, but I know I like it.
Okay. I just took a sip of it, and this is a nice wine. Pinot Noir can be a sublime wine. It can be sublime, but it could also break your heart. And one of the things and one of the things about this wine, $15 is tough to get a good Pinot Noir. I find it's really tough to get a good Pinot Noir under $20. That's Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is a very fickle grape. It has broken the hearts of many a winemaker, but when it's good, it's really good. And it's a great springtime and autumn wine, I think, because it really pairs well with foods from springtime, foods from the autumn.
We were out in California in February visiting my sister who lives out near San Francisco, and we took a day trip up to lovely Napa Valley. And she knows somebody who knows the vineyard Turnbull. So we were lucky we got a private tour.
Excellent.
I don't know much at all about wine, but I was fascinated. We got to learn about how the wine's made. And afterwards we went and had a nice tasting, and I picked out a variety of wines that I thought we would like, and we had them shipped back, and one of the bottles we bought was the Syrah.
You know, there's a romanticism to going to a winery because they're usually in beautiful areas. There's the tasting room, usually looks really nice. You get the tour, and it's really cool to go behind the scenes to see how the wine's being made. So it becomes a really personal, almost emotional experience. And when you taste those wines at the winery, it's great. what's really nice though is when you bring those wines home and you still like them. Margaret, tell us what you brought and why you like this wine and why you're drinking it, and I'm going to pour myself a little bit, okay?
It's Menage a Trois. I don't like the name of it.
So, but more and more people are drinking more wine, and they're trying to figure out what they like. It's nice to try things and come up with something you like, and this is something you, after tasting other wines, you came to like it, right? Menage a Trois is a name that Margaret does not like, but it also speaks to the marketing of wine. Menage a Trois is, of course, a little racy sounding. There's other names of wines like Promiscuous, for example, that try to kind of pull you in. There's a wine glut in the world, and there's tons of wine out there at all different price points, so you need something to attract the person's attention when they're in a wine shop. And then once you taste it, they hope you like it and stay with it. And that is really the marketing of wine these days. It's a nice wine. Syrah is a grape that you really find more in the Rhone region of France. They're making some really nice Syrahs though on the west coast, and this is, the Turnbull's a really good producer in Napa, in Oakville, I believe, right? You're right in the heart of Napa when you visit them. And Syrah tends to make a bigger wine. California, because of the heat, these wines get, I like to say, they get really jammy. You must get a raspberry jam kind of taste in there, so they'll put more oak in there to kind of balance that out. So it's more of a full-bodied wine. If somebody wants something that's light and sipping, this isn't necessarily it. This is a really good food wine. So this is a blend from California. It has to be a blend of Cabernet, Merlot, and Zinfandel. I know that because I read the back label. And that's a great way to get information about your wine. It's a producer that makes other wines at a higher level, and they're buying, basically using their surplus grapes, which is not a bad thing to do, again, when you've got a glut of grapes, a glut of juice out there, and making a good, reasonably priced table wine that people can enjoy and that they like. So that's good.
Why is Oregon produce such great Pinot Noirs? They're so expensive.
They are expensive, and again, it's the terroir, it's the climate, it's the soil. It's very similar to Burgundy. Red Burgundy is 100% Pinot Noir. There's not a drop of anything else in a red Burgundy. So everyone tries to emulate Burgundy when it comes to making a Pinot Noir, and Oregon has really the climate that is really most similar in the United States, probably to Burgundy. Now you can get really great Pinot Noirs from California, but it's a different tasting kind of a wine. Argentina, where they're growing these grapes, even though it's hot, they're growing them way on the top of mountains, cooler climate, and it's actually very similar to conditions in Burgundy. So you have a nice one there. So take a little taste of yours, because I have something that I want you to try. Now look at this bottle. Isn't this beautiful? This is a wine from Moldova. I'm not even quite sure exactly where Moldova is, but yeah, I'm going to have you try something. I'm going to refer to this almost as a baby Syrah. I mentioned earlier that the Syrah is from the Rhone region, where again they make some really beautiful wines, some big wines. This is a wine that I got, Paneros. It's from Jumilla. Jumilla is a region in Spain. So this is really a blend of Syrah, Monastrell, and Grenache. Take a taste of that. It's going to be lighter. This is a Cabernet Merlot blend. I'm going to give you a little taste of that. I mean, this is a funky bottle. I went shopping recently. I brought my son with me, and it's great to bring your kids wine shopping. And my son said, wow, that's a really cool bottle, Dad. You've got to buy it. Have you had wine from New Jersey before?
I have never had a New Jersey wine.
This is a New Jersey wine. Tomasello is the winery.
I lied. A friend of mine, his grandfather makes wine in his basement. I had that wine.
These New Jersey grapes. This is similar to Pinot Noir. It's a clone of Pinot Noir called Villard Noir. So it's going to have very similar characteristics to a Pinot Noir, but it's a wine grape that actually does better in the climate here.
Yeah, it's got more distinctive smell.
Definitely has a distinct smell. Not necessarily a good smell.
No, it's a little.
It's not terribly far off from.
It's not
from
far off at all. It's actually a little smoother.
Yeah.
My Pinot.
Yep, and there's still some more tannins in it as well. Wine should be something that you like. It's something that you do for pleasure. It's something you do socially. It's something you should enjoy. You're not a big wine drinker, but you wanted to come up with a wine that you liked, and what you did was we went out and found one. And you'll probably come up with others down the road too. So, but that's great. Thanks. Very similar smell and very similar taste. Not quite as chewy, not quite as viscous.
It's very good.
Different mouthfeel. Different weight, different consistency. Somebody asked earlier about wines, and I said, I don't often judge wine by its color, but really by its weightiness, and that really determines if I'm going to drink it, if I'm just sitting around on my flip-flops on the porch, or if I'm going to have it with a big meal. So, thanks. I appreciate bringing that wine. Cheers. Good to see you again. We're back at Garden State Urban Farms in Orange. One last time, we're going to go over some white wines that I think are excellent for spring and summer. And one of the things I do when I'm picking out white wines is I try to pick out wine from regions that are really summery, the types of wines that people are drinking in warmer climates. The first one that I have here is a Vermentino from Sardinia. Again, excellent value. This wine is also a green selection. What better wine to feature in a organic urban greenhouse than an organic wine that's 100% sustainably produced fruit. A friend of mine, Gene, refers to Vermentino as zippy, and I think that's a great way to describe this wine. It's zippy, it's got a freshness and an acidity to it. These white wines that I'll be talking about all have that in common. These are not big, heavy, brooding white wines. They're not overly oaked. They're not oaked at all, in fact. They're not big on the malolactic fermentation. They're not buttery. They're crisp, they're acidic, they're lively, they're fresh, they're even zippy in some cases. They've got a citrus quality to them, which goes really great with vegetables, goes great with greens, and again, goes great with warmer weather. And here we are in the greenhouse, and it's getting warm in here right now, I can tell you that. So the first one is from Sardinia. That's the Vermentino. Second one is a Grenache Blanc. This is a white version of the Grenache grape, or Grenache in Spain. This comes from the southern Rhone region, from the Provence area. Again, a little bit fuller bodied, a little bit higher in alcohol, really has less citrusy than some of these others, more of a stone fruit, a peachy kind of a taste, a little bit more of a fuller mouthfeel, but again, a warm weather wine from a very warm climate. Probably the single best known grape that goes great with summertime, goes great with springtime even, and those types of foods with lighter fare is Sauvignon Blanc, and there's no better expression of Sauvignon Blanc than a Sancerre from the Loire Valley. But there are great Sauvignon Blancs being made everywhere right now in a variety of styles. In California, Sauvignon Blancs are coming in with a lot of oak and malolactic fermentation. Also in Bordeaux, where they blend it with Semillon. You're finding some great Sauvignon Blancs, though, from South America at a great value. Right now, though, probably some of the best Sauvignon Blancs and values made in more traditional, lean, crisp style are coming out of New Zealand. But again, this really is the supreme expression, I would say, of Sauvignon Blanc, and that would be the Sancerre from the Loire Valley. To me, though, there's no one white wine that goes better with vegetables, with greens, especially springtime vegetables, which really can be murder on the palate when it comes to blending with wine, than Gruner Veltliner from Austria. They're pretty groovy, as people call it, and this one's actually called Gruner, with almost a groovy looking spelling and a groovy label to it. Again, this is an excellent alternative to you if you're a Pinot Grigio drinker. It's an excellent alternative if you are a Sauvignon Blanc drinker. These range in price from high single digits right on up into $20 and higher. They also make excellent sparkling wines right now based on the Gruner Veltliner grape. Pretty wine. Almost has a bit of a tint to it, if you will, a greenish, fresh kind of a tint and flavor to it. Very acidic, very citrusy. This is great with things like peas and artichokes, asparagus, radishes, the kind of spring vegetables that, again, really don't go well with most wines. I'm actually going to steal a little piece of Mizuna here that's growing. Again, a great green, peppery, spicy, fresh, organic. And wash that down with this Gruner. Great wine. If you don't know Gruner, rush out and get some. It's really a nice alternative to some of those white wines you've been drinking, especially now that the weather's getting warmer. Cheers. I want to thank Lorraine from Garden State Urban Farms again for letting us invade her space. It's a really great space and they're doing great things. Also want to thank the guys here, Steve and Gaylord and Lindsay. They were great and let us do our thing. Thank you all very much. We'll see you next time on The Grapes Unwrapped.